Ever feel like we're living through history in fast forward? Buckle up, because today we're taking a deep dive into whether the stars can actually give us a glimpse of what's to come.
A sneak peek at the future using astrology. I'm intrigued.
Right. Our source is this astrological forecast for the week of October 21st, 2024, and it's all about potential global hotspots.
Okay, so we're not talking about individual horoscopes here.
Definitely not. This is about global energy and major events.
Got it. So where do we even start with something like this?
Well, our astrologer, Astrolocat from Turkey, uses this really specific method.
Oh, I've actually heard of them. They use that coefficient system, right? Almost like a ranking system for planets and stuff.
Exactly. It's fascinating. They assign these coefficients to planets and astrological houses to create these incredibly detailed predictions.
See, now you're going to have to explain that one. Astrological houses. For those of us who haven't quite reached that level of cosmic understanding.
Right, right. Okay, so imagine like a blueprint of all potential energy.
Okay, I think I'm with you.
And each house on this blueprint, it represents a different part of life. International affairs, finances, even things like, accidents.
So Astrolocat takes these houses and they link them to specific world events based on what their astrological signs.
Exactly.
That's wild. So it's kind of like a global weather forecast, but instead of rain, we're looking at like potential political shakeups or economic shifts.
It's like a cosmic heads up about global energy.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Astrolocat is saying things get especially interesting around October 24th.
Oh, why is that?
They're calling out a few zodiac signs, Aries, Taurus, and Scorpio, saying they might have a rough time.
That tracks with some other things I've been seeing.
Oh yeah, like what?
Well, Astrolocat pinpoints this low coefficient for Jupiter around that time, like a -2.
Which is a big deal because
Jupiter usually governs all these big picture things, foreign relations, law, travel, even on a global scale.
So when they say low coefficient, they mean Jupiter's influence is basically taking a nosedive.
Exactly. And Jupiter's usually a stabilizing force, so when its influence weakens, things can get a bit unpredictable, you know?
And Astrolocat connects this directly to a heightened risk of attacks. Specifically, they call it fanatics.
That's concerning.
It gets even wilder. They specifically mention Putin and Erdogan, saying they might be acting, well, more impulsively than usual.
Wow. Okay, so taking what we already know about global tensions,
Exactly.
it's like Astrolocat is saying this dip in Jupiter's influence could be the thing that, like, pushes things over the edge.
And they even mentioned Zelensky potentially being caught in the crosshairs because of Putin's actions.
That's a lot to process.
And it gets even more intense.
Oh, no, there's more.
Astrolocat goes on to say that Netanyahu could be facing legal troubles or even an assassination risk around October 24th.
Whoa, okay. It's crucial to remember that astrology is about potentials, not guarantees.
Of course, of course.
But still, this forecast definitely emphasizes a need for, heightened awareness, particularly during this time frame.
Like a cosmic heads up, right? And here's where it gets really interesting. They advised Trump to be cautious around that same date for similar reasons.
Are you serious?
October 24th is looking like a wild card.
Okay, so what is it about this date? Does Astrolocat say anything specific?
It's like a perfect storm of astrological influences. Not just Jupiter, but how it interacts with other planets during that time.
A cosmic domino effect.
Exactly. So I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get a little bit, well, nervous. Is there any good news in this forecast? Or are we all just bracing for a week of global chaos?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but don't cancel your plans just yet. Astrolocat does point to a little bit of a breather on October 22nd.
Oh,
Tell me more.
they're talking about a positive influence from the moon that day. So think of it as a bit of a cosmic silver lining in all of this.
Okay, that's something. Which parts of the world might actually feel this lunar upswing? So Astrolocat connects this positive lunar energy to a few specific zodiac signs. And when you look at those signs in relation to actual countries, it seems like Syria, Turkey, Iran, maybe even Ukraine might experience a boost in security or even productivity that day.
Interesting. So maybe a chance for like diplomacy,
Yeah.
or at least a moment to kind of regroup before things potentially escalate again.
Yeah, it's possible. Remember, astrology highlights possibilities, not certainties. But it could be a good window for, communication, finding some
Yeah.
common ground, or even just taking positive action that might help kind of offset some of the more challenging influences that are at play.
I like the way you think. Okay, so a little bit of hope there, but then things take another turn, right? Because Uranus, the planet of change, disruption, it kind of steps into the spotlight later that week.
Right. Now, Uranus, it's often associated with like positive breakthroughs, innovation, that kind of thing. But Astrolocat warns that on October 26th, its energy could be a bit more, let's say, chaotic, especially for a few signs in particular.
Which ones?
We're talking Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius.
So if any of our listeners have those signs prominent in their birth charts, Astrolocat might suggest, maybe buckling up for the unexpected that week.
For sure. And when we look at this on a global scale, Astrolocat actually points to Iran specifically as potentially trying to use this Uranian energy to their advantage. And they say Israel needs to be extra watchful during this time.
And this is where Astrolocat's thing about technology comes in.
Yeah, exactly. They seem to believe that Uranus's influence on the 26th could show up through things like technological advancements, but also through disruptions in technology. Think like cyber attacks or even like malfunctions. Maybe even the use of advanced weaponry, which is a bit unsettling.
Yeah. Okay. In Astrolocat, they went a step further, right,
Okay.
to make sure nobody feels left out. They give us a list. Specific geographic regions they believe will be most affected by this, volatile energy, both on the 24th with Jupiter and then again on the 26th with Uranus.
Yeah, yeah. And the list is, it's extensive. I mean, Astrolocat is basically calling out a whole world tour of potential hotspots. Azerbaijan, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and it just keeps going. Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, China, Taiwan, the Philippines, Japan, North and South Korea. And that's not even half of it.
Wow. They really did their homework.
Oh, they're not done. It goes on to include Australia, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, New Zealand, and then, of course, we've got North America with the U.S., Mexico, South America with Brazil, and then back over to Europe and Africa, Algeria, France, Germany, Switzerland, Russia. They really covered the map.
It's kind of a sobering reminder, isn't it, that we're all connected and what happens in one corner of the world can really ripple out and affect everyone.
Absolutely.
And on top of all the potential geopolitical drama, Astrolocat didn't stop there.
Oh, no. They had more to say.
Oh, yeah. They also made predictions about financial markets, natural disasters, even like the value of certain currencies.
Wow. So they really went for the full cosmic download.
They really did.
Yeah.
For example, they predict a possible dip in the Turkish stock market on, you guessed it, October 24th.
Makes you want to check your portfolio, huh?
Right. And they even gave a shout out to the crypto folks out there, saying October 22nd could be a good day for Bitcoin.
Interesting.
I'm curious, you've studied astrology extensively. Are these kinds of hyper-specific predictions about things like the stock market or natural disasters, are they common?
I mean, it's definitely on the more specific end of the spectrum. It's more common for astrologers to focus on, broader themes, the general energies at play during a certain period. But Astrolocat seems to be drawing on their understanding of how those energies might actually manifest, in very practical, real-world ways.
So they're taking these bigger planetary influences and saying, okay, if this energy is playing out on a global scale, here's how that might actually look.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Astrology, it gives us the general forecast, right? And Astrolocat is kind of adding the specific details based on their interpretation. Whether those details are accurate, that's a whole other conversation. But it is fascinating to consider, how these larger forces might actually be influencing our everyday lives.
Makes you wonder if even half of what Astrolocat predicts happens, the week of October 21st is going to be one for the history books.
Right. Maybe that's the takeaway here.
What do you mean?
Well, it's not about predicting the future perfectly.
Right.
It's more about paying attention to how things could change.
You're saying stay aware, be prepared, but don't panic.
Exactly. Astrology, it's all about cycles and patterns, right? So it's
Right.
like a little nudge to look beyond the everyday and consider these larger forces that might be at work.
So how should someone listening to this actually use this information? I mean, it's a lot to take in.
Oh, absolutely. And it's easy to get caught up in the doom scrolling side of things, especially with a forecast as intense as this one. I think the key is, discernment. Don't panic, but stay informed.
Okay, so practical tips. What would you do?
Well, if I were planning a trip to any of the places Astrolocat mentioned, I might just, keep an eye on the news that week, be extra aware of my surroundings.
That makes sense.
Or even on a personal level, if you connect with those zodiac signs that were highlighted, maybe just a little extra self-care that week. Don't make any rash decisions,
So it's like having a sneak peek at the game plan.
Right.
Even if you don't know exactly how the game is going to play out, you can still kind of use that information strategically.
Exactly.
Okay, so as we wrap up this cosmic deep dive, one last thing for everyone listening to ponder. Astrolocat gave us dates, financial predictions. It's almost like getting a news report from the future.
I know, right?
But maybe, just maybe, there's a bigger message here.
What do you think that is?
Well, I think Astrolocat is making us think about how connected everything really is. Global events, the natural world, our own experiences. It's all woven together by something much bigger than ourselves.
It's kind of beautiful,
Well,
actually.
it's not even really about whether every single prediction comes true.
It's more about the questions it raises.
Exactly. Like, what is our role in all of this?
It's about expanding our perspective.
I love that. Okay, so as we head into the week of October 21st and beyond, everyone listening, keep your minds open, keep your eyes on the horizon, and maybe, just maybe, check in with your birth chart every now and then. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll catch you next time for another adventure into the unknown.